Today we will be analyzing the events leading up to and during the Fairy Creek blockades. Located in Victoria, British Columbia, Fairy Creek refers to over 59,000 acres of land owned by Teal Jones Private Logging Company. This land hosts an unprotected old-growth forest on Indigenous territories. Fairy Creek is well known for its mature cedar and Douglas fir trees that are up to 2,000 years old. Old-growth forest classifications vary based on forest type and location, but common factors include tree size, amount of dead woody material, number of canopy layers, composition of species, and the function of the ecosystem. Only 36% of the world's forests remain old-growth. Old-growth forests support ecological health by combating climate change through substantially increasing biodiversity and carbon sequestration. This can be seen in Figure 1 as carbon stock is highest for old-growth forests. It has been estimated that if the logging rate in British Columbia continues, all old-growth forests will be cut down by 2032. Frustration began to flourish surrounding logging in Fairy Creek when British Columbia's Premier, John Horgan, did not uphold his promise, made in October 2020, to protect old-growth forests in hopes of securing a majority. The New Democratic Party won a majority government, yet changes to logging rates have not been made. Figure 2 shows 21 hectares in light green that are planned to be logged, which officials argue has been carefully chosen and will not disturb the sustainability of the forest. Despite these claims, protesters have taken action to save these old-growth forests, which they believe to be precious, irreplaceable landscapes. Fairy Creek resides within the Pacheedaht First Nations territory. Figure 3 highlights the areas within the Pacheedaht territories at risk from logging. The Pacheedaht have made clear they do not support the presence of protesters interfering with legal logging. The two neighboring territories, Huyahat and the Dididat, are in agreement with the Pacheedaht's concerns about protesters. These three territories are involved in the development of management plans for this land to determine sacred areas in need of preservation. Protesters began their exhibition to save the unprotected old-growth forests in and around Fairy Creek during August 2020. Protests have been taking place on the site of Fairy Creek, but also in the downtown areas of Vancouver. Hundreds of protesters set up camp or packed cars to live in the planned logging sites. Blockades were put up in order to keep loggers from entering the area. Protesters chained themselves to trees or sat high above the ground in a physical effort to stop the advance of loggers and the RCMP. An example of this can be seen in Figure 4. As of April 1, 2020, Teal Jones won in the Supreme Court to allow RCMP officers to remove protesters from planned logging areas. This injunction took effect on May 17, 2020. As of September 2021, 1,004 individuals had been arrested, over 100 of which had been detained more than once. Figure 5 displays the fluctuation of arrests made during the height of the protests. Tension had risen with lawyers warning the RCMP to stop using such extreme measures to arrest protesters. Pepper spray had been used, and a 17-year-old had fallen 5 feet from a wooden structure because it had been dismantled by RCMP members. On September 9, 2021, the injunction against protests was removed, allowing blockades and protests to legally recommence. Live protests have been proven to be problematic for Indigenous communities, RCMP officers, and the individuals partaking in them. Although it is crucial to preserve our remaining old-growth forests, the way we go about it should entail peace for all individuals. This can be done by making informed decisions when electing governmental leaders, reducing demand for products that use timber or forest products by purchasing more sustainable options, and peacefully protesting through petitions and online protests. Thank you for listening to this presentation on the Fairy Creek blockades. If you are interested in learning more or helping the preservation of old-growth forests, please visit The Last Stand at the website provided.